أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to the fifth review session of the Al-Maghrib course Torchbearers. This course was taught by Sheikh Walid Basuni, and this review session is brought to you by Qabilat Bushra. We begin this session with a discussion about the scholar who was also known as Al-Miknasa. The word Miknasa basically means a broom, the broom. So he was so knowledgeable in terms of the deen that he could basically sweep any other scholar away. That was one of the reasons why he was known as Al-Miknasa. This is Baqiyy. Some things about his early life. We do know that he was very, very poor. He came from a very poor family. He lived during the time of the Umayyads, and he lived under the rule of five Khulafa. And he became interested in the deen in his teen years, and he spent 34 of his 75 years just traveling for knowledge. And this is a pretty big thing because he basically traveled on foot. So when he had issues with the knowledge that was available to him, where he was at, then he would travel from one place. He basically traveled to North Africa and to Egypt, to Mecca, Medina, Asham, Iraq, where he studied under Imam Ahmed. And so with Andalus as a starting point, this man basically traveled many places by foot. 34 of his 75 years were spent in traveling. We do know that appearance-wise, he was very strongly built, and he did not have any fat on his body, but he was basically very lean and big and strong. Some of the early factors that shaped his life included the fact that he studied under the great Maliki faqih Sahnun ibn Sayyid, and we have more about this in the notes about how he studied under him and what kind of upbringing he had, what he was exposed to. But one of the things that we do know was that he was exposed to 284 scholars, and Al-Dhahabi basically gave him the title of Shaykh al-Islam. And the reason he was given this title was because he had not only had interactions with 284 scholars, but also just his knowledge, his extensive knowledge about the deen and the sunnah and tafsir and so forth. He did author two great books. One of them was Tafsir Baqiyy, and this tafsir is basically lost, but we have information about this tafsir in another book that is in the Berlin Museum. And he also wrote the Musnad, Al-Musnad. Usually when scholars would write books of hadith, they would use one or the other methodology. So they would either do it by person, they would divide the books by person, by Sahaba, right? Like these are the hadith by Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu and so forth. But and this format is usually called the Musnad. But the second way to do this was that it would be divided by subject. So each would be by a chapter of fiqh, like for example as-salah or tahara or something like that. And what Baqiyy did was that he came up with a combination of both, and he would combine that, and he came up with a way to combine both of these things, and that was why his books were so unique. He did compile narrations from 1,300 companions. Obviously, this book does not exist anymore. We know that none of his books survived. However, the knowledge that he had written down and the information that he had written down, his knowledge is the reason why we call him the broom, somebody who could sweep away all other scholars. And the Sheikh also told us that this book would have been equivalent to Bukhari had it survived. He would also, he was very approachable, and he also participated in 72 battles. And he was a very strong worshipper. And towards the end of his life, he would finish reading the Quran once daily. He would fast every day except Fridays and Eid and the two Eids. And his son said that his father used to pray 100 rak'ah during the day. So every day 100 rak'ah. He would finish the Quran every day as well towards the end of his life. We also know that, and I've already spoken about how he compiled narrations from 1,300 companions and how none of his books survived. We also know that he lived in Cordoba towards the end of his life, and he died in Andalus, Cordoba as well. Some of the lessons that we learned from his life, please go over the notes because there is many. In his case, there's there's a huge list there. And we did also discuss about how we would help spread Sunnah in the community, and we brainstormed these ideas in class. So one of the things to remember definitely about him was that he did travel a lot for knowledge. Inshallah, that is Baqiyy, and please go over the notes because there are many more details in the notes that have not been covered right now in this video. The exam is once again on March 12th at almaghrib.org from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We have a mock exam attached here somewhere with this email. Take the mock exam and practice and get ready for the exam on March 12th. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.